Dear colleagues, for those, this video will be interesting and it will, let's say, unlock some additional understanding or knowledge which is related with the cylinder liner bore. Probably you will know this information, probably not. Maybe you are, let's say, just starting in the business, in the industry. But I will share what I have learned through, let's say, the learning process, also being on board, what I have seen, let's say, from the usage of the equipment itself, what I have seen also from the experience on board, and give, let's say, an overview of what is actually happening in the industry and how I see also this specific job to be, let's say, accomplished or done. Because what I have seen through my experience and through the time working in the marine industry, some things are not properly understood. So while we are, let's say, trying to do our best, and this is the truth, as people, we try to do as much as possible, um, provide as much as better services, but we have to understand one thing that the knowledge that marine engineers needs to have on board is quite diverse. So what is missing? What is missing? It's a link of specialization of some critical points which is related to the machinery, to the equipment. And in my view of point, what I'm seeing that people on board, like let's say deck or marine engineers, whatever specialities that are involved, are something like a multi-tool on board. So basically, they need to know a little bit about everything. And this is where, let's say, the gap existed. I have seen also in myself this gap because since I start to read more, I understand also that doing things it's not just simple. Yes, it's not just doing something to do it. Okay, we have in mind that when we are doing something, what is the results that will happen and what is the ongoing impact that it will reflect, let's say, further on. And this realization came from my side when I was dealing, let's say, in the commercial role, further later on as marine technical advisor, but also as I progress from the junior roles of engineer to much more senior roles. So there understand that the necessity it's not only just doing the things or follow, let's say, the plan maintenance system, but it's also to understand of what you are doing, what is the impact that it has after it is being already completed, and how it can affect, let's say, the vessel performance, the vessel further life steps as it goes. So yes, we have a lot of operations on board. We have different kind of operation. We have different kind of maintenance planned, but there's also some things that are unplanned. Okay, this is something else. We have extensively also discussed that in the channel here. We have run also from different things, different simulations, different things that can appear through your voyage. But today we will talk about something which is planned. It is planned maintenance, it is specific time frame, it is defined, and we have to take a look on that. So today we will talk about the cylinder line maintenance and most, let's say, in today's video we are focused on the honing process. So I have searched the information about the honing. I have done also the honing, but I believe the honing, as I see now, let's say from the view of additional research of information, also viewing yes how the honing process is being done there. So basically, as second engineer, I have to do that thing, and basically also I have to verify that we have the proper tools, we have the proper equipment, because the honing equipment itself is not just create, let's say, the pattern, the diamond pattern, which is, let's say, from 25 degrees to 60 degrees design, but it's also the speed that the honing equipment goes up and down. So first of all, okay, let's see together which is the measuring points. We have three measuring points, the top here, the middle, and the bottom. And it's very important to say that in the normal cylinder, what you will see that here you have the most of, let's say, the most of wear, because you have high temperatures, you have high pressure, you have much more higher amount of friction on the top due to the film is burning much more faster because you have extreme temperatures, extreme pressures, and the film deteriorates much faster. And this is the reason why you have a much bigger wear here. In the middle, when you're going in the middle, it will be, let's say, a better condition, and on the bottom it should be much better, really closer, let's say, this kind of measurements. Very important is to measure the temperature of the gauge that we are measuring, so later on we can compare with the previous measurements what we have measured, and in this case we will see what have changed and how our cylinder liner are changing through the time. Very important to say is that you need to have in mind that it plays a really huge role where you're measuring, and if the measurements are being repeated. Many times you can measure, let's say, one operator 6 months before can measure in one place, let's say, a little bit off, the other will measure a little bit another side, and the measurements will be different. Even the hand, different hand, how it's applied, how straight is the equipment, it can create different measurements. And that's why we have to be really consistent, we have to be really careful where we measure, and we need to have also some additional procedures in place that it will define exactly the points of the measurement. From my experience also in the marine engineering, and also I have seen a lot of things about the improvement, one the improvement state that can manufacturers build is exactly define the positions for the measurement and make it simpler, much more effective, in order to place the tools in the exact same position, if let's say it is possible from the design. But as I know from design view of point, everything is possible, and it makes much more easier because the manual itself, if you look the engine's manual, they does not describe you all the details. They does not provide you everything that you need to know. They give you a, let's say, spherical, a general overview, but if you would like, let's say, to deep dive, to look at more specific things, you have to search in a different resources, additional publications, and deep dive much better in order to create a much more precise and high quality of work. Because at the end, what matters is whatever we are doing to make it as much as proper as possible. Okay, this is the matter. And when we are finishing our, let's say, work or maintenance, we have to be sure that we are not damaging the equipment from what we have done, because it does not make sense just, let's say, doing the honing without achieving the specific results. We can do much more bigger damages to the equipment than it was previously before doing the maintenance. So this is the point, that we are not damaging the equipment, we are improving the equipment. At least we are keeping, let's say, in the same condition as we found it, or a little bit better, let's say. if we are, let's say, destroying the equipment, we does not add any value. And this is a very important thing for junior engineers to understand how they add value to the vessel itself, to the equipment, to let's say the company, because simply by doing the maintenance itself and then creating, let's say, a much better effect for keeping the oil, you add value by reducing the oil consumption on the engine. So by the reducing the consumption of the oil, it directly reflects of the amount that the operator, the charterers, or the owner have to spend in order to keep moving the vessel. So wherever it's related with the oil consumptions, with the fuel improvement, it has a direct impact on the fuel efficiency, on the emissions, and the cost that all the people that have been involved will be exploited in the future. So this is the value that the engineers are added, and also to reduce the breakdowns, the unexpected breakdowns. Because if you have a vessel which is, let's say, sailed from A point to B, and at the middle of the ocean it is broken, the propeller is not moving, the generator is not starting, or let's say it caught fire due to improper, let's say, maintenance or breakdown, huge major breakdown, the vessel are not able to deliver the cargo to its final port. So it has a huge effect directly. So it does not only affect the engine at that point, it affects the whole supply chain behind, because somebody purchased the cargo, somebody needs that cargo immediately in their location for specific reasons to provide that cargo to their customers. And this is what we have to have in mind before we are doing any kind of maintenance, how it will affect the vessel, how it will affect, let's say, the equipment, and how it will affect the supply chain behind. This is the responsibility that and the accountability that an engineer has. But let's go back to our honing process. Let's go back to our honing. As engineer, for me, it will be better, let's say, for second engineer or chief engineer in the position that it will be better we are arriving, let's say, to a port, we just boarded specialities, special, let's say, teams to do the job and make it as much, let's say, proper as possible with all the knowledge that they have built, with all the expertise that they have built. So we exact achieve all that things. But the most important thing is that when this kind of services are coming on board, the people that involve, let's say, with this kind of this type of maintenance, they are there and looking and asking also of what they are doing, not to take, let's say, the job or learn and do it by themselves, because you're never able to reach the level of competency of a person who is doing that thing, let's say, for 10, 15, or 20 years. That is for sure. There's some things that is only known by them. And it's really important that we are also learning from them, but we are not able, let's say, fully replace them. This is one of the approach. The most used approach that is within the industry, I don't know, maybe it is related, let's say, with the Greek companies, all the maintenance is done by crew. And in my opinion, as I have seen now, it's not the most, let's say, proper way. Yes, you are reducing the costs, let's say, to deploy additional people, but as I have seen, yes, the quality of work reduces quite a lot, because simply, despite, let's say, the crew has to do the job, there is limited time to do the job properly, and I have seen it also on board, because the vessel which are doing, let's say, close voyages near the ports, we have a very limited time, and all the things need a lot of details and a lot of checks, washings, measurements, which you cannot do if you are, let's say, out of your rest working hours. So what is happening? A lot of seafarers are overloaded, both mentally and also physically on board, and they get burned. That is a true reality, because, yes, as engineer, I have been there also. You really push the limits of your, let's say, your body, your mental health. So it is really crucial that all the things are being taken in account. And it's very important that the resources that we have for the seafarers, that they are appreciated in a much different way. And I will explain you some of the points that actually related, let's say, with the cylinder liner honing. One of the important things are that um, all these things requires a lot of steps, a lot of attention, and a lot of care. So when you have, for example, short voyages, when we have a lot of operations, these things, looking also from my experience, are not be able to be done properly. Something will be missed. And what will happen? The quality of the reporting for the specific job will be really low. It will not be exact. A lot of things will be missing. And as engineer, I have reviewed a lot of reporting from the specific jobs, and I have seen that gaps that existing there. Yes, we can close our eyes. We can say, yes, we have done the job is completed and all the things. But the question is, are the job done properly? And since this job is being completed and it's not done properly, it poses a risk. And it is a risk which is accumulated through the time, because it's one job here, one job there, another job on the other side, and so on. So then we create a chain line of different jobs that are not properly reported, are not properly maintained, are not properly given the attention that it is required, because yes, we want to save, let's say, our budget and all the things, but at the end it leads to huge accidents and incidents that are happening on board. And at that point, it affects the whole supply chain, it affects the customers, it has an ongoing effect. Okay, let's go back to our measurements. We have seen all the measurements, let's say, across. We have measured, we have compared them also with the previous. What is important before start the honing, and I have done also extensive videos about the diesel generator overhauling, is to place a fire ring here, a old fire ring. This happens for the reason because after we complete the honing process, we will place a new fire ring. This is just to protect the insertion of the equipment, to guide the equipment, and also to protect the surfaces here to not be damaged. Since we finish the honing, we will remove the flame ring and we place a new one. And a very important thing is that we are also check the sealing surfaces. We are clapping the sealing surfaces. We check that our tool is not damaged. We check that our surfaces are smooth, having a made texture, and also a made texture should be on the cylinder liner. So we do not have a glaze texture which shows that we have not finished our honing process. Very important thing is to remember that you need to place something exactly like here on the bottom, which will hold all the particles that are falling down through to the bottom of the cylinder liner, because these particles can enter the engine and then they will damage also the main bearings, all the rest of the bearings. It can go to the system oil of the engine and it can circulate through the old engine. So the cleanliness, the level of cleanliness, it should be like a hospital. So we create a, let's say, how you call it, a equipment which can accumulate the dust. Everything falls down here, and we use a cutting oil here, so everything will flow down. It will clean also the surfaces, and it will create a much better pattern. So we use a sufficient lubricate film, and this will help to restore the original micro geometry. Remember, the macro geometry of the cylinder cannot be altered. Okay, it will only create a micro texture. And very important is, before you starting any honing here, you need to remove any coke or any deposits that are accumulated here on the top of the edges, because if you will not remove them, they will create some scraping effect. They will create scratches which will not make your texture uniform on your cylinder liner. So you must be really careful to check also the tool before starting. Check the cylinder liner, check the top here that does not have any deposits, check the tool itself that is clean on the insertion, and then by the cutting oil, lubricating oil, you can start the honing process. Really important thing is that it's recommended to use these two equipment, Chris Martin Hones and Hanger PHM. So we need a slightly matte appearance, and yes, maybe you will be supplied by honing oil or cutting oil, but have this in mind. And after cleaning with gas oil, check that all the abrasive particles are being removed. Clean very fine, which is really important. Clean it as much as possible, because yes, it really matters. From my side, I will suggest a white glove test. After cleaning, you just put a white glove, a specific white glove test. You just take it and scrub and see what remains. Clean twice, clean 3 times, 4 times. Make sure that nothing remains, because as I explained, everything can be contaminated in the lubricating system, and you do not want that for any reason, because first of all, if this kind of particles will end it to your fuel pumps or your fuel injection, it will have a direct effect of how your system performing. Here we can see some of the reporting and measurement of the cylinder. Let me a little bit turn it. One moment. If I will able, let's say, to turn it, that will be really great. Okay, let me see. To turn the form. For some reason I cannot turn the form, but it's okay. So we write the engine type, the engine number, engine running hours, inspector signature, approval signature. Inspector signature, it is the one that is the person that are making, let's say, the inspection of the engine. It can be, let's say, the teams that are outside doing the job. And then approval will be, let's say, from chief engineer or the second engineer, the person who is assigned, let's say, to that specific maintenance. The inspection date, the report number, the cylinder liner identification number. For sure, each cylinder has specific identification number. Running hours, very important. If you have changed any of cylinder liners, you have to state it that you have replaced it, let's say, with the new one. And also you can see that there is measurement forward, aft side, and cam exhaust side. A, B, C. Liner temperature and any remarks, any findings that you have find, you should write there, stated, okay, in number one cylinder we find these, let's say, features, or we have spotted dart. And then you can also attach images of each cylinder from the top, from the bottom looking. You have to create a structure of the reporting that will make a much easier view of the engine in any time from anybody. And most important, yes, it is for the person that are work on board, or for the person that will take the vessel from you, that they will able to understand, okay, what job you have done and how you have completed that. Also, very important thing is that here it is stated in millimeters where the measurement should be taken. So it is from the top of the cylinder liner 50 millimeters lower, then it's 210 millimeters, and then we have 390 millimeters from the top in order to place our tool in the C position. Always measure the liner temperature and the equipment temperature. What I'm always doing before measuring anything with the micrometers or with the dial gauges, I place the dial gauges there to the engine, so the equipment that I'm measuring will take also the same temperature as the engine, and then starting to take the measurements. Thank you very much, my dear friends and colleagues, to everyone that have joined this channel. Please subscribe, please share also the material if you find it that it helps and it will give you additional view or perspective. But also very important to say is that I have a book which is related with the crude oil. If you are interested, let's say, in the crude oil washing, crude oil operations, it gives you amazing insights of how to deal with various problems. And also very important to say that on the channel there is available paid material which deep dives in a lot of aspects, such diesel generators overhauling, main engine overhauling. We have run more than 100 simulations with different kinds of conditions, with our advanced course with the boilers, advanced course with the purifiers. We exploit all the possible cases that you will face, let's say, during your voyages and your time in the maritime, let's say, industry, by sailing or dealing, let's say, with the problems as let's say, technical expertise. It can give you also insight for the deck side as well. It can give you a lot of different perspectives that probably you have not spotted yet. Thank you very much. My name is Mihail, and stay tuned to Marine Optimization Consultancy. Previously, the name of the channel was Adventure Story, but I have to align it with my new development and with my new projects which are ongoing. For you, for the old crew that has been here for a lot of years. I will be always the adventure story that you have started to watch. Never forget that. And I really appreciate all your time and all your efforts to support the channel, to keep it alive and give me that motivation that is much needed in order to create great material, great community posts. And also please join my LinkedIn account where I post um, my experience. I post exactly the things that I have seen it on the field, because yes, we know that we have to be compliant with a lot of regulations, with a lot of different things, because this industry, yes, it's too complicated. That is true. But the most important thing is that we have not to forget is the commitment that we have. And it changed completely how we see the marine industry and how we define the things. And since we know, yes, since we built our experience, we are able to create something meaningful that are changing to the industry in a much better world for everyone. From the charterers, from the traders, to the ship owners, to the crew on board, what we would like to create is a world that values all the aspects that it's related with the maritime and the shipping itself. Thank you very much. I wish you a great day. See you later. Bye bye.